Rhonda from Music NL invited me back in May to be involved with Music Week.
Mm.
And that was at the same meeting when I was asking her for a lot of help in supporting what we're doing at Trinity Hall. And I just felt like it made sense for lots of reasons to say yes to that. So I am coming up to do that. I'm going to give a keynote speech on Saturday, the 21st. And I'm being interviewed on the Friday, some kind of live interview that they're doing. I might be presenting an award at the awards thing on Saturday night. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to hanging out in St. John's for a couple nights.
Yeah, absolutely. But there you go. Greg Wells back in town next week. Music and L week. We got to talk about a bunch of things, but we're going to cover in a big way an album that's coming out. It'll be the second release, I guess, from Scilly Cove Records at Trinity Hall Christmas. But let's jump to the intro. Welcome back to the podcast, Greg. I grew up just like any other kid in Newport, Newfoundland, around, on, and sometimes even in the water. I grew up wanting to be a sailor, just like my father. I eventually sailed on ships all over the world for 20 years. Then I met this guy, Greg Wells. He bought a 100-year-old church in my hometown. Along with a great team of people, there's some very special things happening there. My name is Ryan Gates. This is my hometown of Winterton, Newfoundland. This is Downey's Bank, Scilly Cove Records podcast. But first of all, what are you up to right now? Like this, well, besides talking to me?
Right now, I'm preparing to drive through the intensity of LA rush hour traffic to go watch my 12-year-old daughter play volleyball on her school volleyball team. I live on one side of Los Angeles, and her school is playing at the complete other side, which on the map doesn't look that far, but with rush hour traffic, it's like driving to, I don't know, it's like driving cross country. So that's what I'm staring at. And we just wrapped the Christmas album, which I guess we're going to talk about. And I was very focused on trying to finish that because I wanted it to be as great as possible. And I had been working on these two Wicked movies for over a year, but they really, a big pause button got hit because there was a writer's strike here for all the folks that write movies and TV shows. And so that they had to stop filming, which meant that we stopped working on it. We weren't allowed to work on it. And I love working on the project, but I also enjoyed the break because it was really intense. We were working all through the weekends, really late nights. I wasn't seeing my family very much, and I've been able to see my kids a lot more. I've been I've taken work days off during the week and taking my kids to the zoo. And this morning I was like swimming with my 4-year-old and stuff I couldn't really get to do when I'm in the throes of like working on a movie. When you work in a movie, it's a bit like, I don't know if you ever saw that movie, The Revenant, that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, but there's a scene where he gets attacked by this massive grizzly bear, and it's sort of like that. It's like that bear's just always on top of you.
That's not what I was expecting, but okay.
So the bear, went somewhere else, has been somewhere else for several weeks. And it's been nice, coming back to Newfoundland on Tuesday, and today's Thursday, and I was just there a few weeks ago. So it's nice to be able to like do stuff like that and just have a bit more breathing room.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We've appreciated having you around a bit more because we've missed you for sure. Last time we were on the podcast, like I said, we had just signed Summer Bennett. We were gearing up for the grand opening of Trinity Hall. It was all systems go. The record label had just released Courtney's album, or we just finished Courtney's album. We were just gearing up for her CD release, or album release show. Again, so much has happened since then with regard to artists. And we'll talk a little bit about the artist, I think. But let's dive right into this Christmas album we've got coming up. So, the vision behind Christmas.
Look, I don't want to interrupt you, but
you're going to.
I want to. Well, just on Courtney Wicks, like, you had texted Courtney and I, Courtney and me, you texted Courtney and me. I feel like I should say Courtney and I, but that's actually wrong. Courtney and me texted us this morning saying, oh, by the way, Courtney, your video of Nancy Spain has pushed past 15,000 views, which is kind of amazing. It hasn't been out that long. And I was reading through some of the viewer comments, and there's like a bunch of folks from Ireland that have left comments saying that that's their favorite version of the song. You know, they like it better even than Christy Moore's version of the song, which is like, it's really high praise. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Ireland also is another one of those places where the music bar is just like absurdly high in the air. And, you know, like Newfoundland, but I mean, to get that kind of praise from afar, you know, where the Irish influence musically and I think culturally is very prevalent in Newfoundland. It was a beautiful thing to read, and it meant a lot to me. You know, I hope it means a lot to you and Courtney as well too. It's just what a cool little like side occurrence, you know, I don't know. I don't quite know how to finish that thought, but
No, it's. I always find it astounding because I mean, I live in this little world here where I just, you know, I'm helping run the record label and I'm involved with the Trinity Hall board side of things, and we just go about our business, and we do hear a lot of, you know, local praise. Since you were on last, Trinity Hall's been nominated for Venue of the Year at Music and L this year, which is, I mean, it's up alongside some of the greatest venues that there are in Newfoundland, Labrador. Some of the, you know, like the Ship Pub, for example, is one of the most well-known pubs and beloved. You know, it's just beloved by artists and locals alike. It's one of those kind of, you know, puts me in mind of like Cheers. You know what I mean? It's just it's where the locals go kind of deal. You know, these are the kind of places that get nominated for the Venue of the Year, and to have Trinity Hall lumped in with that in our first half of year of operation, I was just astounded by it, because I mean, whoever wins is great and that's wonderful. But the nomination process with Music and L2, it's completely unbiased. They bring in a panel of people from across the country to judge this stuff. It's not, there's no favoritism, there's no popularity contest. It's based on the application and what's been written about the place. So we're on the right track, I think is what I'm getting at. And we've only just gotten started. But yeah, I get to read sometimes in passing comments on Facebook and on the different platforms we're using, people who just take notice of what we're doing, who have no reason to have taken notice of what we're doing. And that's when it really strikes home that we're doing something real special. You know, I knew it would catch fire locally, certainly in Winterton, the Trinity Shore, because we kind of started out with that kind of in the mindset, but, you know, not limiting ourselves to anything. And then of course, Newfoundland and the St. John's area has grabbed onto it, and up through Labrador. And now we've got people reaching out to us from Halifax and Moncton up in New Brunswick wanting copies of this Christmas album that we've produced as soon as it comes out so they can play it in Atlantic Canada. And that's without me even reaching out to anybody. They've reached out to me. So people are watching, right? But yeah, no, Courtney's, well, I mean, that's the other thing about this whole project too. And I hope she don't watch this because she'll call me a sook. But I mean, I knew Courtney since she was a little girl, but we were never friends. You know, I'm about 10 years older than her. It just didn't match up, right? Since this project has come along, me and her have become great friends. Like, I mean, great friends. I talk to her daily about, you know, operational type stuff, but we joke and carry on, and we've become really great friends through the project. And if that's the only thing that comes out of this, I'd be more than happy. But again, we're just getting started. There's so many good feels about the whole project. But yes, I'm going to drive you right back to the Christmas album. Unless you get another side thought, feel free.
Well, it does happen. But anyway, go ahead.
From time to time. So we come up with this idea for a Christmas album, for something special.
No. We did not come up with the idea. You came up with the idea for this Christmas album. And you come up with a lot of ideas. I would say most of them are really good. This one is just the best idea I've heard in a long time from anybody. Don't give me any credit for coming up with this idea. This is all your idea. Go on.
Yep. No, thank you. So the idea being that Scilly Cove Records was developed on the premise of a not-for-profit where, you know, 50% would go to local charity off record sales and 50% would go to the artists who get involved. We've made so many good connections over the last little while. People in the industry, people who are now artists on the label who are working on music that is not yet released. You know, people like Justin Fancy, who since last podcast you were on, visited you in LA. You guys did some writing, hung out for a week. We've made a lot of good connections, and I said, why don't we reach out to these people and see if they're interested in donating some time, where no one takes a cut of anything. And they donate their time. We donate our abilities on the production and facility side of things. And we create this full-length Christmas album, a true variety album, which brings in people who've been doing this for years. I mean, Ray Johnson, who's a legend, not just in Newfoundland, but in Canada. He's won the Order of Music in Canada, I think it's called. And been recording for 50 years, right down to people who've never recorded before, but just outstandingly talented people who I've stumbled across. So I pitched the idea to you. You said it's going to be an incredible amount of work, but yes, let's do it. And then you kind of gave me full control over it, which I really, really appreciated. You told me to select all the artists that I thought would be a good fit for what I had in mind. Shopped the idea to them all, and it was an astounding yes. Let's do this. This kind of opportunity. I don't know of an album that's been done like this in a long time in Newfoundland. We've had compilation albums before, but I don't think there's been one done like this, which is truly widespread across denominations, music genre, cultural boundaries, the whole shooting match, right? Generational gaps. But yeah, so everyone piled on board really quickly, and I kind of came up with the idea a little bit late too. Like normally, after talking to you, you're like, well, normally Christmas albums are completed, done, ready for the shelf, like July, August, done. And we really
earlier, actually.
Well, fair enough. I'm trying to give myself a little bit easier here, but we didn't actually get recording until September and the beginning of October. We literally just finished our last track the beginning of this month. So it was all systems go. We reached out to Mark Feener, who's been massive supporter of everything we're doing at Trinity Hall and Scilly Cove Records. Asked Mark if he would be interested in co-producing on the album with you to lighten the load and help expedite the process. Mark, more than capable, and have turned out some great stuff for the album as well. Reached out to Claire to see if she would fully self-produce a track of her own. She's up for Producer of the Year as well through Music and All this year, and a signee to Scilly Cove Records. Claire could not wait to start. Her track is just mind-blowing. So these people piled on board. Again, the whole concept, I loved the concept. Obviously, I'm the one who came up with it, but as I pitched it to people, everyone kind of agreed the same, that it was something that hadn't really been done before. So that's the concept. But then, of course, we needed a cause. And for me, the greatest cause that there is in Newfoundland Labrador, I believe, is the Janeway Children's Hospital. And their donations come in through their foundation, the Janeway Children's Hospital Foundation. I've done some work with those guys in the past with different projects. So I reached out to Carmela Butland there. She handles all the corporate stuff. And I pitched the idea to her, and she was like, whatever you need that we can support with, or contacts you need to help push this or whatever, they're going to support us as well. So, the money from this album generated is going to flow back into the Janeway Children's Hospital. In fact, she's going to let us know a piece of equipment that they're targeting to purchase for the Children's Hospital with the money that we're raising. So pre-sale link is up. I'll tell everyone that. And if you want to order it, just go to scillycoverecords.com. Under our shop menu there, you can order it. You can order a hard copy, pre-order a hard copy. Or you'll be able to download this through an MP3 download. Same price, it'll be the same price point, but again, because it's for the Children's Hospital, it's not a money grab. It's a high quality product. But what I want to do, if you got the time, Greg, is I'll just get you to touch on each track. I'll list off the tracks to you, and we'll just discuss a little touch on each, and go from there. Give me 2 seconds to pull it up now. And if there's anything you want to chime in with what I just mentioned, feel free, by the way.
Well, I mean, I think, of course, anybody in the right mind would recognize what a great idea it is. For me personally, I really, really resonated with the idea because when I was 11, I got this disease in my right hip, and the top of the leg bone, top of the femur, is your hip ball. And the disease is called Perthes disease. And usually infants get this. So like the oldest age is usually around 3. For some reason, I got it when I was 11. When you're that young, when you're 3 or younger, it just sort of fixes itself because it's mostly cartilage at that point. It's not really hardened bone. But when I was 11, it was all bone, and it just kind of softened, and it came out of the socket, and it was really painful. I was in and out of a wheelchair, mostly in a wheelchair, for 2 years at that point. And I spent weeks at Sick Children's Hospital in Ontario, in Toronto. Um, and you know, it's just being in a hospital is really, it's a lot of things, but it's boring. Like, it's really boring when you're a kid. And music was like the one thing that I had this, you know, crappy little transistor radio with this like single weird like earpiece, and that's the thing that just kind of kept me going. So just remembering, you know, that experience of like being there, and I would see a lot of other kids that were there too, and for different reasons. I was in sort of the orthopedic like bone section, but you know, I remember seeing kids that were dealing with terminal cancer and just all kinds of heartbreaking stuff in different ages. um and so just remembering my own experience of that, and then the power of music. It's like that's why I do music, is to try and lift people's spirits. And music feels like a healing thing, you know. Uh I was actually just thinking this morning about like the few times that we've done some music stuff at Trinity Hall when I've been lucky enough to be there at the same time, um and jumping up on stage and playing with some of the great artists that we've had play there. It feels like, you know, I don't feel like I'm like, when I do that, I don't feel like I'm like, oh, I'm like showboating and sort of muscle flexing. I'm feeling like it's more like letting something come through me, and it's all about like, uh I feel like I want everyone in the room to feel that, you know. And I'm sort of like shepherding it, or trying to at least shepherd that into the room. So that's what I want this album to do. And of course, I also wanted to raise, I want them to buy that piece of equipment that they're talking to you about.
Yeah.
So I also have like my own little personal history connection to being stuck in a sick kids hospital for longer than you want to be, and you know, trying to do schoolwork out of there, and just it's just not a fun experience.
I think that your story too is that'll resonate with everybody, because if there's one charity too in Newfoundland and Labrador that everybody can relate to, has been connected to in one way or another over the past 50 years, however long they've been there. I don't even know. It's been the hospital's been there a long time. Everybody is connected. Every year, Newfoundland Labradorians come out in droves during the Janeway telethon, which is where we'll present the check for this, and we raise millions of dollars, and that's without asking for anything in return. Just pick up the phone and call in with a donation. So I think when people realize that they're going to get a world-class piece of music memorabilia, for, if nothing else, if you buy the hard copy, if you're downloading the digital copy and listening to it on your phone in your car, you're listening to, again, world-class production of artists who, some of which I guarantee you've never heard of. Some more you have, 100%. But you're going to be pleasantly surprised with what you get for your $20 bill, and how far that $20 bill will go for the Janeway Hospital. So, yeah, I think everyone's going to resonate with your story, because I think we've all got our own. I mean, I had two kids that were born at the Health Science Center, which is connected to the Janeway, and both of them end up in intensive care because of different reasons. Nothing incredibly serious, but while I was in there for a week with each of them, I seen babies who were preemies who were there for, you know, the long haul. They were there 3-4 months, and there were the nursing staff. I'll never have enough good to say about staff at the Janeway Hospital. The equipment is one thing; they have world-class facility there, but the people, when you bring in the best of Newfoundlanders and ask them to care for other Newfoundlanders who are under the age of 15 or whatever, you're getting the best of people, and some of the doctors from locally as well as from away who've come to work at that facility. There is no better hospital on planet Earth, in my opinion. But again, one man's opinion. Let's get to the album. So, track number 1 on the album, again, since our last chat, signed to Scilly Cove Records to hopefully produce her next album, Miss Rachel Cousins. Rachel's been at Trinity Hall now multiple times. She did her own sold-out show. Again, since we last talked, she was the very first ticketed show we did at Trinity Hall, sold out to rave reviews. Again, she came out for the birthday bash the other day. She couldn't she couldn't perform. She came down ill, but she still made the trek to make sure she was there to pass along her greetings, and again to help support the kids who were there, who were shooting a partial TV show actually for the local high school, and they wanted to interview Rachel, so she came out for that. But Rachel is doing a cover of Willie Nelson's "Pretty Paper," and I didn't know what to expect, because when I asked Rachel what she wanted to do, again, I let all the artists choose their own song. And she said "Pretty Paper." It was not what I was expecting. I was not expecting a Willie Nelson country music type song. So I didn't have any idea what to expect. We sent her off with Mark to experiment on sound and what they wanted to do, and they collaborated on this. Mark came up with the guitar arrangement, and Rachel, of course, on the vocals. And I'll let you just talk about the track a little.
Well, I got what they did, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever heard Rachel do in the studio. I can't wait for people to hear it. I think there's a reason we are opening the album with it. It's a really just strong recording. It's a great song with a great artist, and it plays great just by itself, just the vocal and the guitar. It's fantastic. And I just added some kind of just sort of ethereal, kind of vibey. Two of my favorite sounds are I used to play with Katie Lang when I was 23 to the age of, I was in her band for 3 years. And there was and still is a pedal steel guitar player named Greg Lees, Leisz, and he can play real traditionally, but he also does this really cool thing where he turns on some delay pedals, and he just does this thing where he takes the bar and he just sort of rubs it on the string so that the strings start to vibrate. And it's almost like it kind of turns into like a synth pad almost, but he keeps the vibrato going. It's the most haunting sound, and it's been a real influence on me. I used to just watch him do that in sound check. And I've just imitated him a lot. So that's something I like to do. I did that over the track, and then sort of an adjacent kind of same area code of kind of haunting, ethereal, almost spooky kind of sounding is a weird thing called an ebow. You must have, so how do I describe what an ebow is? An ebow is like this weird contraption, almost looks like a little stapler, but you can hold it over a guitar string. And I can't explain really how an ebow works, but it makes the string vibrate. It sends some sort of, I don't know what it does to the string, but it just makes the string vibrate on its own. And it sustains forever until you take the ebow off the string. You're not actually, I don't think you're touching the guitar string. You're holding it just over it, and it just makes it like that. And it's just a really cool sound. And I like doing that on guitar, and then usually turning on some effect pedals. And it's cool with a volume pedal. You can kind of like swell that in and out. That matched with the pedal steel doing that is just this crazy, weird, like what's going on sort of thing. So that's happening behind what Mark and Rachel did. And it's a great song too. I'm super proud of how that turned out. And I remixed it a couple of times. I mixed it twice, and I thought we were done. And then and it sounded great, I thought. But then I got some new gear. I'll show you. I got this, let's see if it shows up. No, that's not it. Where am I? I'm trying to aim the camera to thing. I can't really, that thing there, that box there. I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but it's the Rupert Neve company. It's called the Master Bus Transformer. Don't we all need a Master Bus Transformer?
I could use one. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we could all use one. So it has a bunch of different stuff in it. It just kind of you put it across the entire sound. So I don't just put it on one element. Like I don't just put it on her voice. I suppose I could, but I put it across everything. I run the whole mix through it. And there's a bunch of stuff you can do to it in that box, different options. And it just sort of colors and changes. And you can mess with the stereo imaging, make it feel more stereo than it is. There's two different transformers in it. One accentuates the more high-end harmonics, another one does the more low, kind of beefy harmonics, and you can play with the balance of those. It's a pretty fascinating little box. I fell in love with it, and when that showed up, I was using it on the later mixes that were showing up, and I went back to Rachel's mix and thought, I gotta reapproach this. So now that's going through that stuff too. I love it. I cannot wait for people to hear it. Of course, I can't wait for people to hear the entire album, but we got a strong opening track.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm always astounded at Rachel's vocals. I still think she's got more in the tank. Like I keep telling, anytime I chat with her, I'm like, if you ever cuts loose, like actually lets her high end go and really digs into it, man, like she always blows me away. Rachel always blows me away. I've been a fan for years, ever since the first time I heard her, which was at least 5 or 6 years ago. She is just, anyway, vocally amazing.
But she also has the ability, which she does on this track, where she's singing really intimately and really quiet. A lot of the time when singers do that, or when musicians play really quietly, the intensity drops.
Yes, yeah.
But there's something about when she does it, it's as intense as if she were going for a louder or higher pitch or something. It just pulls me in. It really, it's, yeah, she's something else.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So track 2, we've got a song which I'm willing to bet you never heard until we did this album. I'll guess that. Have you heard the song by Ron Hines? I'll be there Christmas Eve.
No, but the song absolutely blows me away. What an incredible song!
Yeah,
everything about it, the lyric, the choices. Because I'm also a songwriter, so I'm always listening to something I haven't heard, and I'm listening for like the choices that were made by the writer. Mm-hmm. That's an incredible song.
It really is.
What an amazing script.
It's a really interesting story as well, because the original version of that song was written by Ron, and it was really dark. It was kind of, sailor on a ship, kind of drunk before Christmas, not really having much to offer to the world, and kind of looking for, kind of a second chance kind of deal. But it was still a great song. It still is probably, again, one of my favorite versions of the song, being the original. However, there was a group of young girls. This would have been, they were young girls. So it was, I want to say 20 years ago, in St. John's, called the Ennis Sisters, which locals will be more than familiar with. They're one of our biggest exports ever in the music scene. They've been everywhere and done everything. Legends, living legends. They were just getting on the move, and they wanted to release a Christmas album called Ennis Road. And their dad loved this song. Ron Hines was a legend. Saying goes that if Elvis Presley would have come to St. John's, he could have easily opened up for Ron Hines. Their dad reaches out to Ron. He's like, the girls really want to record this song, but it's a little dark for some teenage girls. Would you mind coming over and rewriting the song for the girls? And Maureen Ennis, who's one of the lead singers there, of course, with the group, she tells this story, and she's like, can you imagine this day and age if you reach out to someone locally who's of the same, it'd be like the same thing as reaching out to Alan Doyle and asking him to rewrite one of his hits, you know what I mean? But like, it's so unheard of. But Ron was like, yeah, sure. He was that kind of a guy. He came over, he sat in their living room with the 3 girls, and they rewrote the lyrics to soften them up and make them a little more presentable for their demographic. And that is the version we've recorded on this album, because it is simply beautiful. But the artist that we've chose, and the artist who chose this song is a young lady named Amanda Stone. I've known Amanda for about 5 years. The first time I heard her sing, it was a full stop. It was just like jaw hit the table. I've always thought that she should be recorded, and given this opportunity, when Trinity Hall and then Scilly Cove Records started up, she reached out to me and she said, if there's ever an opportunity, I'd love to get involved. And I said, well, I'll keep you in mind, because there's going to be lots of projects over the years. And this, I couldn't think of a better time, because Amanda actually helped me with a project a year ago. I was raising money for a local recreation outfit here, and her and my good friend Courtney Wicks got together and put off a Christmas show for me, where we sold tickets and we raised some money for our local recreation. And they did that free of charge. So, again, Amanda is an absolute saint. I love her to pieces. She's a great friend, but an amazing vocalist. So I'll just let you touch on her as a vocalist, just your first impressions.
So I got sent the recording, and I started working on the mix. And I was immediately blown away by the singer. And I just assumed, because I didn't know anything about Amanda at the time, we were doing this quite fast and furiously. Mm-hmm. Here comes the next song. Okay, Greg, we got to finish the mix. So I'm just thinking, okay, well, clearly this is like a tried and true, super experienced artist who's like toured a lot and performed a lot, because I think there were about maybe 5 or 6 vocal takes, like vocal recordings, over the same guitar performance. So, for those of you who don't know, like, you can, in the recording studio, if you're playing a piano or you're playing a guitar or whatever the singer is singing to, you can you can record a performance, and then you can go back and over the same piano you can record another performance, and then you can record another performance, and then you can kind of pick your favorite moments from each performance, like a movie gets edited together. You can do the same thing with a vocal. So I was doing that. I was listening to all 5 or 6 of her performances and picking out, and I do that with every thing I produce and mix. It's just like editing the best scenes from a movie together, and that's how you create the movie. And I started noticing that, like, I mean, typically, no matter what artist I'm working with, what recording artist I'm working with, there's usually big differences between each recording, each performance on the same song. Some takes are really great, some are not very good. Some have great moments and then they kind of peter out. They're all quite different. With Amanda, they all sounded almost identical. They were all super strong, just like super consistent. They all sounded usable. I could have used any of them from top to bottom with no editing. And I just thought, well, this is somebody who's really, 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 really a pro and very seasoned. And I could not believe when you told me that, I started Googling her. I'm like, who is Amanda Stone? Who is this artist that I don't know anything about? And I found a singer named Amanda Stone who's down in New York, who, and God bless whoever that Amanda Stone is, but she had all these like really provocative photos and like super sexualized. And I thought, okay, well, maybe that's who Ryan's found. And I don't know. And then I saw some more photos. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure that that's the same person. Doesn't feel very Newfoundland to me. And then we started talking, and you're like, no. She's she doesn't do this professionally at all. She's always actually wanted an opportunity like this, and she's considering that. I mean, I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but I think that she told you something like she has mostly kind of sung around the house, right? She's like mostly sung like in the kitchen or just, around her family. She's hilariously overqualified to be only singing, around the house. Like, she's as good as anybody. And she's a real natural in front of the microphone. Like, there's good singers, but they don't always translate in front of a microphone. Microphones are weird. They're unnatural, in the same way that not every beautiful person is photogenic in front of a camera. It doesn't always work out that way. And also sometimes people who aren't necessarily really attractive in person, oddly, can be really photogenic on camera. I don't know why. Microphones are like that too. But she's great. She's just a killer singer, and the microphone just loves her voice. Yeah, I hope we can figure out a way to record her again. I feel like if she wants to, if she can figure out a way to come up with a project where she's the singer, like, that's something worth. I mean, we'd be crazy to not explore what that is.
I completely agree. She keeps telling me that she really just she wants old country to come back in a big way, and she wants to be the one to do that. And
how old?
Like Patsy Cline old. Like,
yeah, that's my favorite version of country music.
Me
like the
too.
OG, super traditional. Yes, Patsy Cline's like, it doesn't get better than that for me.
Amanda again, like I said, she dreamed of always being a singer. She started down that path as a young lady, but of course got, like the rest of us, got derailed with raising family. She's the mother of 2 beautiful young girls, happily married and doing her thing. But now that the girls are getting older, she's expressed an interest in really diving back into this. And in doing so, because of what turned out on this Christmas album, one of our other artists we'll talk about very shortly is Janelle Chantel. She's doing a show at Trinity Hall on the 28th of October. And Amanda's going to be opening for Janelle, and they've got a real special show planned because they're going to be collaborating on some stuff to finish the show off. And I hope no one misses it. I hope that if people can get there, they get there, because this one is going to blow the roof off of that building in a big way. Amanda, during the COVID pandemic, recognized the value of performing online and giving people some reason to not be sad and to kind of have something to latch onto. She did a performance series that she just did Facebook Lives out of her bathroom. And They were watched by thousands of people around the world. Thousands, 5,000, 10,000 people watching this young lady play guitar and sing from her bathroom with these big old country music notes. She did a version, I know, you remember the How Great Thou Art by Vince Gill, Carrie Underwood? She did that song in her bathroom over a 10-cent microphone, and every hair on my body stood straight up. It was just crazy, crazy intense, you know? But again, that's Amanda Stone. We could do a whole episode of me talking about Amanda. She's just, and again, aside from being a fantastic singer and performer, she's an actual fantastic person, which is the resounding trend at Scilly Cove Records. We got nothing but fantastic people.
I hope the walls stay standing at Trinity Hall after that concert's over.
It's going to be wild, man. Janelle sent me her set list yesterday, and I was just reading through it and trying to envision how she was going to deliver these these big lady songs. And I'm like, whoo, it's going to be a good one. But and I from what I understand, Amanda's going full on country, and it's not something we've done at Trinity Hall yet, with a full blown country performer like that. So it's going to be real special. But we got to keep going, or else we're going to be here all night. Track 3, Baby Please Come Home, Fairgale. Again, Scilly Cove Records artist, up for Rock Artist of the Year at Music NL. Killer band. I think you were surprised when you got the track. Tell me why, and let's talk about it.
Well, it's just like every track on the record, it's like the quality level is so, and I'm critical. I don't like most music. I don't like most food. I don't like most people. I don't like myself. And it's like, it's so good. And Stephen Green's vocal is it's so good. And he's hitting these crazy high notes. It's really soulful. It's a real up-tempo, kind of fast song. Most of the songs on this record are not this kind of like fast fifth gear kind of vibe. And I love that we had a track like this come in. It's like a full band. It's high energy. It's a cool sounding track. They're a cool band. They make cool choices, cool instruments. It's great writing. And it's a Christmas song. I'm not quite sure how they pulled all of that off and contained it in one package, but it really rounds the album out in a way that I can't imagine. Well, I also can't imagine the album not having this song on it. If that almost says it better than anything else I could come up with.
What blew me out the water when, and I actually asked Stephen about it the other day when we were shooting a music video for the album that's coming too, folks. This is going to hit in a big way. I asked him, I said, like, how did you come up with that particular beat? Because like that song for me normally got like a swing beat to it, whereas Brad's like like it's a complete, like he straightens it out and goes with it, right? And Steve was like, I don't know. He said, I asked Brad to record drums, and that's what he gave me. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll straighten out the lyrics too. And man, did it ever work. The boys are just, they approach everything so creatively and so true to their own artistry. I've been listening to Fairgale for a decade almost, and they've never sounded better than they do today. There's a reason why they're up for Rock Artist of the Year. If they don't win, it's a travesty, in my opinion. Again, congratulations to the winners if that is the case. But
they're a real amazing confluence of influences too. Like I got most of the track from 3/4 of the band, and then Andrew Rogers, who doesn't sing lead on this one, is playing a bunch of guitar stuff on it. And so I got his tracks, I think like half a day later or maybe a day later. And one of his tracks was just called, I can't remember, it was like effects or like, sort of like delays and just noises and stuff. And it sounded like he was messing with the delay pedal, like changing the pitch and changing the speed. So a lot of these sounds on this track sound like UFOs taking off and like weird things. If you listen to it by itself and shut off the rest of the music, you think, how am I ever going to use this? How does this belong on a Christmas album? But when I put it in the track, I realized it's amazing, and I couldn't turn it up enough. Like I kept turning it up, and it just helps. It just helps vibe the whole thing up, and it's actually so loud. Those weird sounds are so loud in the track, and you don't really feel it. It doesn't sound weird. They're amazing, and the song turned out great. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's a killer track. One of my favorites. I've listened to the full album now at least I'm gonna say, and I'm not joking, I've listened to the full album from front to back at least 200 times now, and I can't pick a favorite, but that one stands out for obvious reasons. It's different than everything. There's a few more that are like that, but we'll get to that. Next track on the album is not really a Christmas song. It's got some spiritual context as well, and it's by a young lady named Janelle Chantel, who I mentioned is going to be doing a show at Trinity Hall on the 28th. If you don't have tickets, get them today at Eventbrite. But going to be a killer show. She absolutely. I was there today. We recorded this song at Trinity Hall. Empty room, just the way it should be done in that building. It's just the room. Just like I remember texting you right after it, and I said, Greg, I said the building absolutely loved it. Like it just the whole thing felt so warm and so homely when she was singing. We did 10 takes of the song or something silly. It was crazy. Everyone, again, same thing. They just got better and better and better. The more she played, the more she sang, the better it kept getting. And we ended up with a final product that you only just took over the top and made absolutely killer. But again, I'd like to hear your takes on, well, Janelle's voice, for one. She's unique in herself, but then the track as well.
I don't even know where to begin. I mean, so the song is Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, who I am a huge fan of, and one of Canada's great talents, one of the world's great talents, one of the best writers ever, and that's probably one of the best songs ever written. Mm-hmm. So I'm so happy that she picked that song. And Janelle has, some singers, there's a world of like great singers, and then there's a much smaller world of great singers who then also just, when they sing, they just kind of grab onto your heartstrings or like your gut and just kind of get in there and just kind of tug and pull and make you feel this stuff. And I just met her recently at Trinity Hall. Had a nice conversation with her. That's it. We've had one conversation. But I mean, certainly just speaking for myself, I've had some crap happen to me in my life, and that informs my music. I think if I'd had a really happy life, my music would be pretty boring. And I don't know anything about her, but I have to assume that life hasn't been like a big beautiful bowl of cherries for her. And I hear that in her voice. And not that I wish any hardship on anybody, but I think great art comes from turmoil and tragedy, and then having the boldness and the being brave enough to not let that roll you over like a freight train, and stand up and try and you get knocked down but then get up again, and it's very hard to open your mouth and sing in front of a microphone after you've been knocked down. I have absolutely no idea what her life story is, not a clue, but I'm projecting my own weirdness onto the situation. And in her voice, I just feel like this depth and the way that she sings Hallelujah, and she's changed some of the chords too, which I've never heard anybody do with that song. And it works. It works really, really well. So I got this recording, and I remember getting texts from you as it was happening, and you were, freaking out, saying like, just wait till you hear this. And you were right. And I listened to all the performances, and absolutely what you said. The first one was great, and it just kept getting better and better and better, 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 better. And then I picked my favorite one and started just kind of building. I started adding some like Hammond B3 organ on top of it, and thought that was enough. And then what would happen if I added a cello to it? Did that, and then added some strings, and then kind of took it to this sort of like, I don't know. I just tried to sort of match the sacred vibe that was coming off of it, and just picturing her singing it in Trinity Hall. And, I just hope I did it justice, because it what she did is it's really special. It's really moving. I don't know what else to say. I've said a lot.
No, and that's enough, because I think that'll leave people hungry enough that they got. Again, this is a track everyone's got to hear. She's played that live for us once at Trinity Hall for the public at the birthday bash, just not not a couple weeks back. But once you hear the fully recorded in the same room, the fully produced version of this with as you pointed out the instrumental in the background, man, oh man, we got to move on though. It's a great one. Track 5, I'm going to have to reel you in on this one too. You'll talk about this young lady all night long. Summer Bennett, she wrote an original song for the album, and you've been working with Summer now for a better part of 4 or 5 months, I guess, on some stuff which is not released yet. But this one will be the first release from Scilly Cove Records from Summer Bennett, and it's going to be a Christmas song that she wrote. So just touch base on it and fill us in on your thoughts on it.
Well, it never occurred to me that somebody would write an original song for the Christmas album. I just assumed they'd be covers, of like songs we all know. I mean, that's what I thought. That's what I think it should be, And I said, you can hear, here's a few songs that have already been chosen by people. Let me know what song you want to pick. And she wrote right back. She said, is it okay if I write my own? And I said, sure. So several days went by and she sent this demo, and I just thought it was so sweet and pure. And, what I love about the way that she writes and presents herself artistically is she's not trying to be. I think she just turned 16. Am I right about that? I think she's like literally just
got her driver's license.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
She's newly 16 years old. I met her when she was 15. And she's not trying to sound like she's, older than that. She's just really telling the truth. She's really kind of speaking her truth and just being herself. And it sounds like that. And there's something very pure about that I love. I think the coolest thing anybody can possibly do is just be themselves. I don't like it when people are trying to act like they're somebody else or sound like they're somebody else. So it's this really fun, lovely song. And she sent me her piano playing and her singing. And she said, Greg, you can add some stuff to this if you want. And at first I wasn't sure what to do. And I started hearing this kind of fun rhythm behind it, and just started messing around and threw some stuff at it that I thought might be kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. And I sent it to her. I'm like, am I crazy? And she said, no, this is really fun. I really like it. And sent some more weird kind of stuff, almost like kind of like Afro pop on it. And I said, have I lost my mind? She's like, nope, sounds great. And then we finished, and that was it. So it's it's like a 16-year-old girl from Paradise singing over sort of an Afro pop track. It's really interesting. I love it.
It's awesome. It's going to get a mountain of play on local radio, if not right across the country, because it's so like I said, I was chatting with her dad about the track. I said it's so fun and borderline flirtatious in that teenage way. Like, it's just playful and fun. Sure. And she just had a blast making the song, and it's really cute. The song is called Secret Santa by Summer Bennett. So again, make sure you pay close attention to that one. You're not gonna have any choice. It's gonna be everywhere. I suspect local radio is gonna eat that up. The next track, oddly enough, was also written for the album. And again, we'll try not to go too much detail. We talk about Courtney Wicks a lot, with good reason. She's one of the label volunteers. She helps with a lot of our graphic design. Anything I throw her way, she tackles it like a champ. But she wanted to write a song as well for this album, and she went back to her traditional roots for this one. So your first take on this song, I'll just let you go on it. What do you think?
And I believe she wrote it with another Scilly Cove Records artist.
Yes, well pointed out. I should mention that, or else I'll be shot dead on the spot. Jeremy Harnum, who is Yes Officer, which is a crazy aggressive, loud sounding band. Not exactly your Christmas album kind of stuff, although Twisted Sister did a Christmas album, which is kind of pretty cool. In any case, Jeremy Harnum from Yes Officer teamed up with Courtney to co-write a song. And the final product is called House Full of Christmas. I know the story behind the song. Neighbors, of course, of Jeremy growing up, large family, very tight-knit family. when Christmas would come, everybody came back. Dogs, cats, babies. It was just that the house was completely on wheels for a week, 2 weeks, however long everybody was there. And then finally the dust would settle and Christmas would be over. But Courtney wanted to write a song with that concept in mind, and she came up with the House Full of Christmas, which again ties right back to her traditional roots. And yeah, just what do you think of the song?
I hear that. I feel like I'm in that experience when I listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that same sort of like pure thing, talking about Summer's track, where it really like it really, really, really is exactly what it is. I would apply that same descriptive to Courtney's song, Courtney and Jeremy's song. Um, it I just kept it really simple. I just wanted her to be the storyteller and really put the listener in exactly the kind of scenario you just described. It feels super Christmassy. Like I think that's actually like every song is obviously it's a Christmas album, so every song feels Christmassy in its own way. This one really, for me, puts me like right in that sort of like, you know, that feeling like I would have as a little boy. Like,
But I mean, isn't that indicative of Courtney Wicks? Like all she is, she's 100% feels all the time. Like she doesn't perform without the heart on the cuff, right? Like everything she does, she's 100% feels all the time. There's no one in the world who should be that nice. I've said it many times again. You would automatically assume there's something going on behind the scenes there, but there is not. She's an absolute saint of a woman, and everything she does just portrays that emotion. You can hear it in her vocals. Like there's one part in the song, I think I can't remember, it's near the end anyway, where she doesn't really sing the vocal, she kind of speaks a couple of the words, and her voice not quite cracks, but she kind of drops into more of a, like you can feel her feeling the lyric. And it's a special track. That's one of our music videos that's going to be coming out. So that'll be coming out along with the promo for this album. And in leading up to it, she sent the track to the performers and actors who are going to be in the video, and multiple broke down and cried when they listened to it for the first time. I heard all these stories afterward. I was like, I guess she hit the nail on the head with the locals. So again, it's 100% Courtney Wicks. People are going to love it. It's Courtney. There's nothing more to say about it for me than that.
and I was kind of blown away to find out. I had no idea that it was going to happen, but I did find out that she was filming part of the video in my great, what would it be, great great grandfather's house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the house that my grandfather's grandfather built. That makes him my great great grandfather. Because she was looking for like an old timey house, like a real salt box house that still looks like that. And then I think that's part of the video, right? They're like showing a real traditional one and then a more modern house. So, anyway, it's my own little narcissistic connection to the video, but
yeah, we're all there. It's a stunning little home too. It is very, very much out Port Newfoundland. That home is it's everybody's nan's house, and that's what she was looking for. And we've reached out asking for such, and this house was graciously donated almost immediately. Use whatever you need, use away, enjoy yourselves. But anyway, beautiful track, killer job. But we got to keep going. We're halfway there. Okay, so the next song, again, signed to Scilly Cove Records. Incredible talent, borderline genius at times. I think that operating at a different level than most of the public, I would imagine. Claire Follett, again, she's up for Producer of the Year at the Music and L Awards coming up. Just an astounding, talented young woman, and she's been on board with everything we've wanted to do at Trinity Hall so far. She's all about it. As soon as I reached out to her, she's like, yes. She's big into Christmas too. She is a Christmas nut. So she's like, yes. She said, can I do a Christmas song that's kind of borderline not a Christmas song as well? I said, listen, do whatever you want. This is the beauty of the project. She said, I want to do River by Joni Mitchell. Again, Canadian icon, right? I hope that the track makes it, Joni. I believe last time I checked, Joni is in her 90s now, I believe.
I think she's in her 80s, but yeah, she had a terrible health scare a couple years ago, which she's sort of rebounded from.
Yeah, no, and fair enough. Amazing career, singer-songwriter, just out to lunch talented. but I don't want to put Claire Follett right into the Joni Mitchell category of talent right at the gate, because I'm like everybody, she's got to prove herself as well. But man, what a talented artist, Claire Follett. So when she wanted to do that song, I was like, holy cow, this is gonna be interesting, because I'm just in love with everything Claire puts out. So she sent me the rough mix, and I was like, this is heavy duty. And I sent it to you, and anyway, you can go on.
Well, you're right. She's heavy duty. She's so funny. She's so like kind of unassuming. Her personality is just so kind of quiet, and I worked really hard on the mix. I really wanted her to just love it, and I worked on it for a long time, and I sent it to her, and she wrote back. She's like, "Thanks, sounds great!" Exclamation mark. That was it.
So Claire. Yeah.
Um, and it's an amazing track. She's playing all the instruments on it. Her background vocal parts alone on this, which she's singing, the arrangement of it, the choices that she made, the parts that she's written for herself to sing are so cool. I've never heard the song River by Joni Mitchell performed like this, recorded like this. It's so interesting. And none of these performers on this, none of the artists on this Christmas album had the benefit of hearing anyone else's track.
That's part of the charm.
Some of them, what's that?
That's part of the charm for me, I think.
It is part of the charm, but it could have led to a couple of train wrecks, and it really, because some of them took really divergent turns, and kind of chop their own way through their own forest, and River with Claire is definitely one of those things where nothing else really sounds like that on the record, but it's the most beautiful compliment to the rest of the album. Claire is a force to be reckoned with on multiple levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love Claire. Let's keep her going. Okay, so the next track that we've got is a real special one. Again, we talked about transcending borders and all that kind of stuff in the brief intro to this conversation. A young lady by the name of Christina Hernandez, Mexican descent. She moved to Newfoundland and Labrador, and she's still, again, like everyone else in this album, still aspiring and chasing the dream. And her voice, when I first heard this track, again, full stop, I was like, wowzer. That, coupled with would you call it classical guitar? I saw it's nylon string, clearly, but I don't know if it will be a classical guitar or not. But in any case,
it's played on a guitar that you would play classical guitar on. Yeah, it feels more like flamenco guitar to me.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a nylon string guitar, which is also a classical guitar. Yes.
Fair enough. Anyway, this comes together, and I was like, when I heard it, I was like, if Greg does absolutely nothing with this, if we just throw it on the album, it's completely fine. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you didn't do a big lot with it after that. You kind of just, you loved it, I think, as is, but I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, I just mixed it. I loved it. I didn't want to mess with the chemistry of it at all. I spoke with her a little bit. I did a talk at Trinity Hall back in May, the day after we opened the hall. And at the end of the talk, we did a question and answer thing. And she was one of the people that stood up and asked a question. And I was asking her a few questions, like what led you here? And she said she's a singer. She's trying to, putting out her own music. And for some reason, when you were talking about people to include on the record, we wanted to like, have there be a variety of artists. She popped into my head, and I did a little due diligence because I hadn't heard her music at that point, and found out that she's great. And so we reached out to her, and she immediately said, yeah, I'd love to be involved. So she recorded this beautiful song. The title I don't want to begin to say it in Spanish because my Spanish is terrible, but it translates as The Bell Ringers. And it's like this wonderful breath of fresh air when it comes on as you're listening to the album. She sings it in Spanish, which I love. I love that we weren't like, no, you got to sing in English. It's like, no, sing it in Spanish. Like, let's, be yourself. And it's so authentic. and I just I love it. I love it.
What catches me with that track is that one would think, at least for me, one would think that when I hear a song, 'cause I'm a big lyrics guy, I like listening to the lyrics. When it's in a language I don't understand the lyrics. One might think, well, I'll just skip to the next one, but I can't skip past the track. I listen to it every time I listen to the song. I'm like, because artistically, vocally, and instrumentally, it is superb. It is so good, right from
Yeah.
the beginning to the end. She carries you through this song the whole way, and it is just again jaw-droppingly good. I wish I knew Spanish. That's how good it
Yeah, me
is.
too. Me too. Especially living in California, I wish I knew Spanish. I'm learning it. So my kids speak Spanish.
Well, there we go. Maybe
But
you
yeah,
can
I agree with
translate.
what you're saying. That the way you just described it is the perfect descriptive for it. It
Yeah,
does. It doesn't matter that I'm not fluent in Spanish.
no.
It's just the experience of listening to it is really something else. I'm
Totally
so glad she's
transcends
on the album.
cultural boundaries. I again, it was the perfect fit. Next track, love these girls so much. Amity, uh, have yourself a merry little Christmas. I chatted back and forth with these girls, painstakingly length amount of time over which song they were going to choose because they were so excited. I mean, they're so excited anyway. I'm sure that like when Emma Bursey hits the floor in the mornings, it must be like a hurricane at her house. Either that, I don't know. It's just like these girls, Alyssa Delaney, Hillary North, um, they're just so full of energy and so full of life that I was really curious that they batted around a bunch of ideas. And I said, listen, girls, I said, just pick something which will truly showcase your abilities vocally individually, but also as a unit. And they're like, got it. Best kind. So I never heard anything from them for like 2 or 3 days. And they're like, we're going to sing, because I recommended a couple of songs I thought would be good. And they're like, yeah, they are great choices. No one ever takes my advice. Probably was. They came back and said, we want to do Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. I was like, okay, cool. They decided to do it with just one guitar player instead of three. So Hillary plays guitar on the track, and then they've all got a piece in the verses, and of course the harmony and arrangement. But I'll let you talk about that.
I mean, these three are just nothing but full of surprises. And it's worth pointing out that the three of them are performing this live, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's live on stage at Trinity Hall.
Yep.
And that can be a terrifying thing to know that what you're doing is being recorded with these microphones that can hear a pin drop 10 miles away. They hear every little squeak, every little lip smack, every little, it's almost like they're reading your mind, every little thought in your head. It kind of feels like that when these huge things are placed in front of you and you're being recorded and people are looking at you. And they, they're kids, they're in high school. I'm sure they don't feel like kids, but to an old man like me, I'm going to call them kids. And they haven't done a lot of this before. I'm sure they don't have a ton of experience recording. Maybe they don't have any experience recording.
Well, they do now.
This is their experience
this
recording.
is the experience.
So, and they're holding their own on this album with some people who have quite a bit of experience. Some people have decades of experience of recording. So. I love how this turned out. I love how it really sounds like them as well, even though they're just getting going. They performed a bunch of concerts recently in the area. They performed at that birthday concert that you put together for me to raise money for the boat museum in Winterton. And they blew everybody away at that show.
That was last minute for them as well. Like the whole thing was last minute, but for them it was literally day of. I was like, "Oh, girls, can you just bring a guitar?" And they're like, "Why?" I'd like for you because they were coming up to help videotape the thing. And
That's
I
right.
was like,
I forgot. They weren't even planning on playing the show.
they
That's
weren't
right.
even supposed to play. But yeah, they show up and to your point, you were talking about, it can be daunting, it can be scary and everything else. Nothing seems to phase these girls. They're happy. They're happy young ladies. They go about their craft professionally. They enjoy it, and I think that resonates in their performance. Just they're great performers too. Aside from vocally, like great artists and everything else, their stage presence is amazing. They're so fun to watch, because they're really just enjoying what they're doing and loving what they're doing, and that comes through in spades on this track on the album. For me, it was the arrangement. I mean, the harmonies always with those three girls just blows me away, but the arrangement as well. Just a killer version of that song, and I can't wait for I know they're super excited to have an actual recorded song released. So get ready for that tornado to hit when these girls start hearing their song on the radio.
And I love too that there's something very infectious about the way that they do what they do. Like you can tell that they enjoy being with each other. You can tell that they've got each other's backs. That was like, it's really evident. Nothing feels competitive. It feels very like we are a united front, and we love doing this, and we love doing it for the audience. And it doesn't feel arrogant. It feels like for all the right reasons. And that also that comes through at me without having the visual. It comes through on the microphone, on the record. I can't wait to see what's down the road for these girls, these kids.
Yeah, no, it's scary. It's scary. Well, like I said, I mean, we're blessed with a lot of young people at Scilly Cove Records, and a lot of young people who started in the industry as young people. So I asked Rachel, I said, you were a child prodigy at one point. I mean, Rachel, I believe she's 22 now. She came up through the same kind of thing, and she's been at all the competitions, and she's done all these different things across the country. And I said, what do you think of these young girls? I said, based on your experience coming up as a teenage performer. And she said, Ron, she said, I've never heard anything like it. So I've been around a lot of young performers, and she said, I've never heard anything like these three girls. And to the point that she wants to co-write a song with them as well for her next album on the Scilly Cove Records label. So that in itself, she wants to co-write and perform a song on her next album with these girls. And of course, she told the girls, and again, the roof came off the place. They went full berserk because that's who they are. I love their energy, their passion. The world's kind of a shitty place right now, and being around those three girls, you can't help but smile. It's literally infectious, and that comes through in this song. We'll keep her going. We got 4 left to do, and yeah, we'll get her done. So, friend of the label, you spent some time with him. Great guy, super talented performer, killer voice, Mr. Justin Fancy. Just released his latest album. A little bit of Greg Wells' input on that one. We won't get into that today because I think we might have talked about that somewhere before. But anyway, in any case, Justin reached out to Justin immediately, texted me back like 30 seconds later. Yes, 100%. I want to do Oh Holy Night. Again, I was like, what? I was expecting, one of the big voice ladies. Like I was thinking Amanda Stone would grab that because I've heard her sing it before. And I was like, Amanda kills that song. And she probably would have grabbed it, but Justin got to it first. And I thought it was a real interesting choice because he's got a real country music twang in his voice. I had no idea he had that sort of range. Also, that was a eye opener for me. And then you took the song and ran with it. Because I want to say he sent a vocal track only. Is that fair?
No, well, he sent let's see. The first thing he sent was sort of I don't think in his mind he thought it was the final version. He wanted to know what I thought, and so he sent a guitar and a vocal. I think I got that right.
Yep, that's right.
I don't think it was piano vocal. I think it was guitar vocal.
Guitar vocal it was. Yeah.
He's like, "What do you think?" And I liked it, and I said some of the melody notes aren't quite how the traditional piece goes. And I've played it so many times in church, I just know the thing inside out and backwards. So I said, just fix a couple of these things and give it another go. And I think maybe what he sent me was a voice memo. I might be making that part up, but I just knew it wasn't the final recording. So he was working on it for a while, and he texted me and he said, I'm having a little trouble getting it where I want it to be with the guitar and the vocal. He was having no trouble singing it, but he wasn't satisfied. I don't know exactly why, but I just remember him saying that he wasn't quite ready to send it to me. And then finally he said, look, I've got a vocal that I like, but I'm not satisfied with the guitar. Why don't I just send you the vocal track? and why don't you try playing piano, Greg, on it? Let's see if that works. And I said, sure, send it on down. So we did, and it's a beautiful vocal. And I started playing piano on it, and immediately it was starting to sound like something. And then I thought, well, given that it's a blank slate, like, why don't I just kind of go to town? And I started putting a French horn part on it, and then some kind of strings, and I forget. I added a whole bunch of different stuff to it. At the end, I think there's even like some cymbal rolls and maybe even some kettle drums. And anyway, it winds up being sort of orchestral.
It really is, yeah.
And he just holds it. Like, he holds it. He carries. He leads the charge, as the saying goes. And those high notes that he hits at the end, like, it gives me a chill every time in the best way. It's an amazing moment.
Yeah. That's a hard song to live up to. That's one of those ones that if you're going to do it, you better do it. You know what I mean? And Justin just absolutely slayed it. It was such a great vocal, and it still lays true to his country background. Like, you still get that little bite of country that you're hearing with this beautiful orchestral sound. That's
oh yeah, it
really
sounds like him.
Yeah, it sounds like, you're right. It sounds like Justin Fancy, and I think that's why I love it so much, because I haven't heard "Oh Holy Night" sang like that ever in my life. So, like you, I grew up in church and heard it sang 100 different ways by 100 different people. Heard it on organs and pianos and guitars and recorders, and I've heard it all, but I have never heard it like this. So I think that one's gonna raise some eyebrows as well. People are gonna love it. So,
People forget. I mean, like, singers like Janelle or Justin, who have spent years and years and years, or musicians like me who have spent years and years and years playing in bands. The St. John's version of that, I guess, is forgive me, it's George Street, right, where a lot of the venues are in the city. When you're playing in cover bands and you're doing, several nights a week, like, you just develop this muscle memory. And Justin has a voice where he could kind of sing the phone book, and it would sound great. Like, he could probably sing anything, but he has taken that and he's developed his own. Like, he sounds like an artist. He doesn't just sound like a generic singer who's got a really good voice. He sounds like himself, which is rare. It's hard to do, but there's lots of country singers who could not sing "Oh Holy Night" with that sort of authenticity and authority. You're right. It's like there's no backing out. You either like you put the wingsuit on and you jump off the top of the mountain, or you just don't do it. You can't half-ass that song. Anyway, yeah, he killed it.
Absolutely. 3 more to go. So we got one of the most interesting adds to the album. I'm so glad we did, because I had no idea. Again, you talk about an album that's diverse. Again, we had a lot of young people on this one, first time recordings. But then we wanted to really give it that dynamic of the generational spread, and we had already established a great relationship with Mr. Ray Johnson, and reached out to Ray, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to do it. Do you mind if I incorporated another couple of bodies with me? I said, Ray, you do whatever Ray Johnson wants to do with this track. So he pitched some ideas towards it and things that he'd like to see, and then he arranged for Chad Hunt, who, again, haunting voice. Chad's got a really deep, kind of puts me in mind of George Jonesy kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very George Jones.
And of course our own Courtney Wicks to handle the high end on it. And I know when they recorded the song is called "Angels in the Snow," and some Newfoundlanders will recognize the tune. It was originally written by Kevin Blackmore and his wife. Kevin, of course, is one of the leads for Buddy Wass's Name and the Other Fellas, the band which Ray is synonymous for us, where he got his name and really affected right across Canada. They've played shows from coast to coast and sold out venues for 30 years. Kevin wrote the song with his wife, and again passed it on to Ray. Ray did the arrangement for it, and here we are. They recorded it at Trinity Hall, again live off the floor. It was kind of came together, and I'm just so proud of how it turned out. It starts off, of course, very Ray Johnson. It's exactly what I would have expected to a point, because I mean, Ray has his sound that is synonymous with him with his button accordion and his New Chelsea vocals, I call him, because he's originally from just minutes down the road in New Chelsea from Trinity Hall. And but then of course he brings in the silky smooth harmonies with Courtney, and Chad got that ghostly deep voice, and it just all blends so well together. And it sounds like Outport Newfoundland to me. It reeks of Outport Newfoundland, and I absolutely love it. But I'd love to hear your take on it as well.
Well, the genesis of me wanting to do Scilly Cove Records was to preserve the sound of Outport Newfoundland. That was the beginning of it. It's wound up becoming that plus a whole bunch of other stuff. But that was the very, very, very beginning thought that I had is finding, like, I wanted to make a button accordion record. I still do. In fact, Ray Johnson he's offered to make a button accordion record at some point if both he and we can find the time to do it. But what I love is that as soon as that track kicks in, you're really in like this other time, this other era, in a really natural, really authentic way that just feels like a hug. And Ray is he's just a masterful storyteller. He's a lot of things, but I think it all tethers down to storytelling. And I know that I'd finished the mix, and Ray's recording was one of the last ones to come in, and we were really up against a deadline. I was getting pretty uptight about, like, we got to get this done. We got to get it so that we can, get it up for sale so we don't miss the Christmas season this year. I don't want this to be a Christmas album for the following Christmas. And I'd finished the mix, and then I got a request that came from Ray to add some children's laughter at the top, and then something piano. And maybe he'd actually told that to you, and maybe you'd forgotten, and all this stuff that was going on, you'd forgotten to mention it to me when he said it. So it came in like a couple of days later, and I remember thinking, nah, I just don't have time to do it. We're fine. I don't need to do it. That was my first reaction. It just is what it is. It's a casualty of, like, we're out of time. And then an hour went by, and I had this little voice in my head going, Craig, don't be an idiot. Ray's right. He's right. Shut up. Just call the track up again and just do it. And that voice kept getting louder and louder and louder. So I just did it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop everything. I'm going to open that song up again. I'm going to find some sounds of children's laugh. Found 3 different sounds of children laughing, put that in, timed it where I thought it felt right. And I played piano on the thing, and it just got so much better. And it's kind of created like it feels more cinematic. It really puts you in a thing. I mean, Ray was just, again, he knows what works for his storytelling.
No, absolutely. To me, before you made those requested adjustments, it sounded like a time and place. After the adjustments, it put you in a time and place, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was the difference it made for me. It's again, killer track. It was a great job all around by yourself, by the performers. It's an excellent example of what old school Newfoundland music sounds like recorded today at a high level. So again, absolute killer job, and like nothing else on the album. Like everything else on the album, it's not like anything else on the album. So,
but it fits like a glove for me anyway. I think it fits like a glove.
All of it does, man. It's just everything on the album is so different and so unique that it all fits together seamlessly. It's a beautiful compilation, and we got 2 more songs to talk about, and there are 2 interesting songs. Talk about interesting songs. Holy cow! Another performer, originally from Winterton, the home of Trinity Hall, is Alyssa Green. Alyssa has one of the most natural, raw voices I've heard growing. She grew up with Courtney Wicks, with Jeremy Harnum. They all came up together, which is kind of a scary thought. Gary Powers from Fairgale. These people all grew up together, all in a little town of less than 500 people. And we're talking about seriously talented individuals. I reached out to Alyssa and said, she had shown interest as well in the label. And I said, we'll figure out a way to get you involved in something here along the route. And it was like the track that was never meant to be, because myself and Feener went to Trinity Hall, and we scheduled, 3 or 4 of these women to come out and record. Amity got theirs done. Janelle's got theirs out the way. And we just ran out of time. Alyssa was there ready to go. Okay, no, we'll reschedule. Tried to
Oh
reschedule
no,
it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, tried to reschedule it in St. John's for her to meet at Mark's place, which just couldn't get it to work out. Uh, we got her at Trinity Hall one afternoon while Jeremy Harnum and Yes Officer had booked a space out to record the Yes Officer album. Alyssa was called in the middle of the day, or in the morning. Sorry, it was in the morning one day to start and record this song before Jeremy and them arrived. And she said, "Yep, no problem." She showed up, and it was a litany of lawnmowers and chainsaws and cars and trucks. It was just a busy time of the day. And it just, like Mark said, he said, great takes. He said, but just littered with background noise that it'll just be a nightmare for Greg, an absolute nightmare. He said, we're going to get her back again. I was like, oh my God, poor Alyssa. So again, they kept working on the Yes Officer album. They called Alyssa in for a night recording. I think it was the second last day that Jeremy was there. I think it was a Thursday. They called her in, and she came in around 9:00, and they knocked the vocal out and sent it to you. And I love the final product. It's a real slow song too. It's very, I don't know, it's the kind of song that gives me time to think while I'm listening to it. You know what I mean? But I'll let you talk about the track.
So the track showed up a cappella, just her voice, and I had not heard the song before, and I didn't get it. I mean, she sounded great. She was singing great, but I didn't really understand the song itself. And I had to kind of go to school on the song, and I heard, I think Vince Gill does a version of it, and I started listening to other versions of it, and I started to kind of get it. And then I picked up a guitar and started just playing like really simple sort of nylon string guitar, and then I understood what was going on, at least to the best of my ability. And that track is I love it when that track comes on the record. It's so mellow, it's so unassuming, and it's really such a unique small little story, but it's also a really, really long song. I think the song is almost 5 minutes long. Yeah. Which is, it might be the longest song on the album, but it doesn't feel long when you're listening to it. It just kind of holds you, and the way she sings it, it's so beautiful. She's giving it a very faithful telling the story of the lyric. I think it came out great. I hope she likes it. I haven't spoken to her since I don't think I've spoken to her at all, actually, before or after.
I've been too busy trying to arrange her to get into a studio, the poor thing. But yeah, that track really just is it's simplistic in its structure, but it's just perfect. It's perfect. Her vocals are so. I told her before, almost disturbing to me. Like the way she sings is so raw and so powerful in a kind of a sad, kind of deep, soulful way that when she delivers this song, the song is The Gift, which again, Vince Gill, Garth Brooks, there's a bunch of people who've delivered that song over the years. Her delivery of it is just so on point, and it's stirring for me. It's a very stirring rendition of the song. So, and there's an Easter egg at the end of that song, I guess. That do you want to talk about it, or should we just leave it as a surprise? Do you even know what I'm talking about?
I don't right now, no.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. It's a bell.
Oh, yes. Well, sure. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
I forgot I did that. Yeah. Well, it's in the lyric. I mean, it was kind of like told me to do it, you know?
I know. When I listened to the song, I heard you throw it in there. So it's my first time being recorded as an accompanying musician on an album too, by the way. Back in.
Oh, you know what? You're not listed in the credits.
I know. I should have
let that one go.
Too late, right? Official bell ringer. Maybe. Yeah. Anyway. So back, way back when we finally got hands on the studio, and we were like just bare bones setting up equipment, and like we were fishing wires and lines through pipes and trying to get things. And Greg shows up with these amazing Royer microphones, and he's like, "Okay, this is the middle of the night too. Back in the middle of the night, in the middle of the winter. I want to record the bell, the Trinity Hall bell, which is on display. It's not in the tower anymore. It's on display on the main floor, but it's still in its bracket, and you can swing it." So me and Jeremy Harnum were there, and we're like, "Sure, we'll ring the bell." So Greg gives us instructions as to how he wants us to do it. You know, try to keep it somewhat consistent, like as if it was ringing in a steeple. We did our best, and of course, Greg ran the equipment in the control room, and we recorded the bell. And I had no idea where we would ever use said recording, but it's gone into this track for the gift by Alyssa, who grew up in Winterton, and it could not fit any better. I know the people of Winterton are going to recognize the bell. It's synonymous with Christmas for me. When I hear the bell, it reminds me when I was a kid. That bell rang every Christmas when I was growing up. Just before dinner time, Christmas morning. So yeah, it's a special piece. But yeah, you go whatever you want to say.
Well, it's I mean, the lyric, there's they it says something like the church bells ring or something like that. I forget exactly what it says. And once I heard that a few times, I had the feeble thought of like, oh, I have a recording of a church bell ringing, and you have been on me for so long about, trying to like sneak the Trinity Hall bell into, like anything I'm working on, like the Wicked movie or like, other singers I'm working with. And I just thought, oh, this is the perfect opportunity to do it. And to that point, two things come to mind. I think you should edit in right now to this podcast the recording of the bell. Just let it play for like 10 seconds. But also on Christmas, or like maybe a few days before Christmas, we should figure out a way to pump the sound of the bell of that recording, pump it through the speakers at the top of the tower at Trinity Hall, because there are these really old weird speakers up there.
They look like something. They look like air sirens from like World War II. They're massive pieces of kit. Maybe we'll have an entry level chat about that while you're home. I know we're not going to have time to do anything during Music in a Week, but we should absolutely talk about that and see what needs to happen to make that happen, because I think that would be appreciated by a lot of people.
I don't think it's hard to do at all. I think it might even be ready to go. It might have to be. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Last song. Here we are. You got to go very soon. We got a choir, a full-blown choir. I didn't get a head count that day, but it was like 30 or 40 people, piles into Trinity Hall, too many to fit on the stage. So I'm like, Greg, how are we going to do this? And I was thinking, like, we're going to put them on different tiers of the stage. And you're like, nah, we don't need a stage. Put them in the seats. I was like, okay, well, they're not a performing choir. They're a congregation now at this point. And I love that concept, because then we mic'd up the room, mic'd up the soloist in the actual hollowness of that building, and recorded this beautiful choir, directed by Anne Whalen. Soloist is her daughter, Ruby Ann, and just a killer. Like when I hear the song, I feel like I should be drinking a brandy and smoking a cigar. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so 1930s or something. I don't know, maybe 1920s, but it's just so good. Accompanied on piano again. The Trinity Hall piano, famously now known as Walter, is on the album, which again was important to me. I wanted that guy to make his appearance. But again, just a very, very cool track, and an amazingly talented soloist in Ruby Ann. I'll let you go.
Yep, Ruby Ann sounds amazing. She's a great singer. That was a really fun experience. I started that night really uptight because some of the gear wasn't working the way that I wanted it to. And when that happens, I kind of get my knickers in a twist, as the Brits say. But you really kind of took over, and you were like kind of the ringmaster, and you were quite fantastic, sort of, corralling everybody into the right space and sort of leading the session. And then I finally relaxed. I think it took about a half an hour though, but they were a great collection of people. They were really wonderful to work with, wonderful to be around, happy to be there. Everyone gave the entire evening to do it. We did a lot of different recordings. I kept asking them to do it again and again and again. And every time they did it, it got better. And the recording that's on the record is the final one that they did. And I did I told them, I admitted it was a trick after I suggested, but there's an old producer trick, and it pretty much works almost every time, where you do a bunch of recordings of the thing, and then you tell whoever's recording, you say, all right, we got it. We're done. We have it. I have what I need. We got lots of great recording. Let's just do one more, just for the heck of it, just because we can, just for insurance, we don't need it, but let's just do it. And then that's usually the one that's the best one, because there's sort of a relaxed, they're like, oh, we can just have fun with this one. I did in my ridiculous truth serum way did tell them like this is a trick and I'm trying to get you to just relax and have fun, but that actually was the take that had the most fun vibe to it. And they sang even better than they had been singing. So that's the one on the album. And I do love that it's so different stylistically from everything else. Like it's a choir, turns out a choir really sounds like a choir. It doesn't sound like a band or like a one singer or a few singers on a microphone. It's a really specific flavor, and to have, and it's an excellent choir too, and to have the sound of a great choir rounding the album out, closing the album, makes me really happy. One of my favorite sounds, I grew up as a teenager, I was a church organist, and one of the things I miss the most about that is playing the organ with a great choir kind of surrounding me. It's such an amazing sound. The human voice, I think, is the best instrument out there. I think it's my favorite instrument. And so to have, I don't know exactly how many people there are in the choir, but to have, 35, 40 of those instruments all singing the same song in harmony, led by a great director, there's nothing like it. And I feel like we captured it really well. And with Ruby Ann, singing, I mean, some of the notes she hits are just ridiculous.
Oh,
her range is incredible.
Crazy.
Her tone is incredible. Her rhythmic feel is incredible. It's a great album closer in the same way that Rachel's track is a great album opener.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like a fantastic kind of big Christmas ribbon tied at the end of the whole thing. I can't wait for people to hear the entire album.
It's the happiest version of Blue Christmas I've ever heard.
It's not very blue.
It's so counterintuitive to what I expected in my mind. I absolutely love it. I think, to your point, it's a great closer. And again, directed by Anne Whalen. It was her dream, of course, to have a song recorded by our choir, professionally done and put on an album. And I know they're totally stoked to see this come out as well. So that's the album, folks. 13 tracks, all locals. Produced, mixed, mastered by Mr. Greg Wells. Again,
with a bunch of help.
Along the way. There's got to be 100 people involved in this album now, close to it. I'm actually going to get a count because there is probably very close to that when you take in the choir and everyone who pitched in. So again, I usually close with like, subscribe, all that cram with the podcast. Forget that for today. If you guys like what you've heard here today, you're the least bit inquisitive, the money is going to an amazing cause at the Janeway. Go to ScillyCoveRecords.com, click the shop link, and you'll see the pre-order there for the hard copy. It's going to be a nice little piece of memorabilia and a great listen, if nothing else. So again, Greg, thanks so much for today, man. I know you're a busy man. You got volleyball. It's probably already started. So you get going. And again, thanks for sharing the bench at Downey's Bank.
Thanks for coming up with this excellent idea.
I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah, me too.